Welcome, Ian. My name's Rowan Taylor. I'm a leader in Amazon Web Services, Financial Services Industry Business Unit. Ian, thank you for taking the time to be part of this discussion. To start, can you tell us about yourself and your role at HSBC?
Hi, I'm Ian Haynes, and I'm the Global Head of Cloud Services at HSBC. I'm based in London, and I've been running the cloud team for the last 3 years.
Please, can you introduce us to the scale of the HSBC organization and the key drivers of governance complexity?
Well, HSBC is a large global bank with its roots in London and Hong Kong. We have a number of business units. We have retail banking, commercial banking, investment banking, and private banking, with big home markets in the UK and Hong Kong. But we're in 64 markets worldwide with over 40 million customers. We have 230,000 employees and almost 3 trillion in assets. We're big and global, and our customers vary from individuals and families right up to the world's largest multinationals. Many of them are looking to benefit from our network of global services, and we're constantly looking for ideas and innovation to expand and improve our services. So cloud has really helped us with the digitization of our offerings, and it's delivered speed, scale, and flexibility. Now, obviously, banking is a highly regulated industry, and so along with our global network and our multiple business lines comes a complexity of policy, controls, and regulations. In fact, in terms of regulators alone, we have multiple ones in each territory, and the total number of regulators is literally in the hundreds. And they're all very interested in our cloud journey, the benefits it's delivered, as well as the controls we have in place. So yes, we have a large, global, and complex organization to deal with.
Thank you, Ian. Ian, can you talk us through HSBC's cloud journey to date?
Well, we started our cloud journey back in 2016, and we began with some development and test environments, mainly in the digital channels part of the retail bank. We started to put 1 or 2 workloads into production, but then we quickly realized that we would need a good foundation, some deployment patterns, security patterns, and then also some continuous compliance guardrails to make sure that we could deploy workloads safely and keep running them safely. As we progressed, by 2018, we had the demand for the cloud had spread beyond the retail bank, and we realized it was going to many other parts of the business, into risk, compliance, fighting financial crime, cybersecurity logging and analytics. And also the demand was spreading from Europe and into Hong Kong and Asia and across into the Americas. So that was when we created Global Cloud Services. And we'll talk more about that later, I think, about what that entails. But to continue the journey, in 2019, we continued to host development and some of the lower criticality workloads and data. But we also did quite a lot of control assessments and security assessments, regulatory reviews. And we worked with AWS to make sure that we've got a highly secure and highly available environment, which was capable of hosting the applications right up to the most critical services and the most sensitive data. We called this phase our initial adoption phase. In 2020, we continued to deploy applications, but of course, that was a year that was hugely impacted by COVID for us, for our customers, and for the markets. If we needed any more incentive or demand for cloud, then the pandemic provided it. We saw huge increases in online banking services, literally hundreds of governments and aid and benefit schemes to be implemented, and some very dynamic markets at times. So actually, this accelerated our deployments to cloud. And for existing workloads, they were able to react to some very dynamic demand.
Thank you, Ian. Ian, can you share some of the AWS production workloads at HSBC and the benefits you're seeing of scaled AWS adoption?
Well, I think we have lots of examples we could share. I think open banking will be a good one. There are regulatory requirements from an increasing number of markets around the world today to make our banking functions available to the market in the form of APIs. It's really a new channel that's being provided. And it's being used by fintechs and other banks alike to deliver additional services to consumers. Now, the challenge here is we need to be able to deploy in multiple markets around the world. We need to be able to deploy quickly, but we don't have any idea about what the demand will be like. And when the demand does come in the form of those API requests, it can be very variable. So cloud proved to be an ideal solution for this. We built our open banking solution on AWS. We've deployed it into various markets globally. We're able to cope with either a low level of uptake at the beginning, but that increases over time. The load's very variable, and now we're seeing that we're getting demand of millions of hits per day on these channels. I guess the final example I give you is in global risk. We've moved some of our risk models onto the cloud, and what we found is that we can now run those risk models in minutes rather than hours. And this has really changed the way that the business work and the way that they can make decisions, because now they can get the output from those risk models almost in real time, as opposed to having to wait for them towards the end of the day.
Thank you, Ian. That was really insightful. Can you provide us with a summary of the key functions the global cloud services provide?
Well, we aim to provide the cloud platforms to the rest of HSBC so that they can use them in a safe and reliable way. We try and take care of any functions or services which can be done once globally. And we enable the DevOps teams to focus on delivering applications and services and hence value to our customers. So the sort of functions that we have within global cloud services are that we manage the overall relationship with AWS. We manage our one global contract. We run monthly vendor performance meetings with the account team. And we also run quarterly strategic business reviews with our respective executives. Within global cloud services, I have a platform team that manage the overall platform and, if you like, the HSBC subscription. And then all of the HSBC DevOps teams operate within that subscription. My platform team build and maintain the network connectivity. They do the integration with identity and access management. They provide the foundational platform and a number of common services that everybody can use. And then they also provision the base environment for each project. And then we hand that over to the DevOps team for that project, and they're free to build and consume whatever AWS services they want and build the infrastructure that they need. Except that for the AWS services, they are constrained in their choice by the ones that we have approved for use. So another function of the team is to take that demand in, prioritize it, review those services, make sure that we know how to deploy them in a secure and reliable way, build a security pattern and a deployment pattern, and then make them available on the portal for people to be able to consume. And then finally, the platform team at the other end of the process run a thing we call continuous compliance across all of the environments, development, test, and production. And that means that we make sure that those environments continue to run safely with the configuration controls we put in place. What's interesting for global cloud services is that the technical aspects are really only half the story. I have a number of other teams which have really helped contribute to how we can run cloud services successfully. So I've got an architecture team, a cybersecurity team, a controls team. They look after our overall enterprise architecture for moving to the cloud. And the security team set up our security standards and help us implement those. And similarly, with our controls team, they help adapt the existing controls that we have across HSBC. But dealing with the technical aspects is only half the story. I also have an architecture team, a cybersecurity team, and a controls team. And these look after the overall enterprise architecture about how we bring all these products together. The security team look after our security standards and how we run security tools across the platforms. And our controls team look at how we adapt the existing technology controls we have in HSBC to run on the cloud as well. And then in the commercial side, I have a FinOps team to manage billing and consumption optimization. And I have a regulatory function to help us manage all those relationships with all the regulators and make sure that we are conforming to policy. And then I have a training and communications team where we help the organization learn how to use cloud and what sort of skills they need to develop their cloud services. And there's one final part to talk about, which are some key members of my extended team. And these are specific individuals who have taken on the role of cloud lead in some of the partner organizations that we work with, particularly areas like legal or compliance or risk or procurement. Because those roles and the functions within those roles, they change significantly in those departments when we're dealing with cloud. And it's important to bring those people on the journey with us and have them understand the whole context on what we're doing and how they can help extend those changes into the rest of their departments.
Thank you, Ian. Ian, you touched on your team's role in monitoring compliance to HSBC internal cloud controls. Can you expand on this and explain the importance of this function?
Well, we want to make sure that we are able to develop safely, deploy safely, and continue to run safely. So what we did really from quite early stages is we developed a set of tools which would run continuously across all the environments and check for all sorts of configuration settings, controls, operational settings that we had. Originally, pretty much all those tools were in-house written, and we developed quite an extensive suite. But what we've been doing more recently is introducing other tooling, taking some of the AWS tooling and some third-party tooling to replace the in-house work that we did. We've also been trying to change as far as possible from detective controls into either detective controls with automatic remediation, or ideally into preventative controls. That way we can make sure that all deployments and all changes are already in line with the controls and settings that we want. It's been really useful to us, and I think it's been really important not just about keeping the environment safe and controlled, but also being able to demonstrate that we know that they are safe and controlled. And this has been really useful in our discussions with our own risk stewards and also with the regulators.
From a financial operations or FinOps perspective to managing cloud, can you talk through the key aspects for you here and any learnings you could share?
I think FinOps is a really exciting new area for us. It's a new skill and it's a new set of capabilities that we're going to have to develop and mature as we go on our cloud journey. You know, we all know that with cloud, you have this ability that you only pay for what you consume. And that means you can really optimize the cost of computing. But, you know, there are some new skills required to do that. And actually, everybody has to change the way that they work to make the most of that. So we've taken a step-by-step process to it. The first thing we did was that we centralized the billing to make sure that we only have one bill and we know what everybody is consuming on the cloud. We wanted to avoid any unexpected bills. We then started asking each of our project teams to forecast how much they're going to spend every month for the next 12 months. And we do that on a very regular basis. And what that does, as well as giving us an overall forecast, it gets the teams thinking about the fact that they're consuming and that consumption could be variable. And it gets them thinking about predicting what that consumption is going to be and how it's going to change. So then with the overall forecast, it makes it easier for us to negotiate global contracts. We can set up our partnership deal with AWS. And of course, you know, we can establish the best discount levels that we can get for the level of commitment that we're prepared to make. Once we have that in place, we can start doing some of the optimization. So we looked at the first steps, right-sizing the services, making sure that we're running the right amount of CPU, the right amount of memory with each of the instances, continuing to do that, looking at the recommendations that you get from the AWS system. We also looked at power optimization. So again, making sure that we're really only consuming the services when we need them. If we can spin them down at the weekends or overnight, if there are peak periods during the month, we can lower the levels during the rest of the month. And then we started looking into some of the additional commercial techniques as well. So making use of things like savings plans or different types of consumption models, spot pricing, reserved instances. So these can all help make savings on your monthly bill. And now we're starting to think about how we can actually re-architect applications to optimize consumption. Okay, so changing the way they work so that we can, again, reduce our bills. This is another area that AWS will help with, and they will give you some guidance on how you can re-architect to optimize consumption. And then there's one more piece that we've been looking at, which is how we can get our day-to-day work to integrate a cost factor in everything we do. So looking at putting a cost function into every change and making it part of the change review process. So teams are not only thinking about whether the new release will change the functionality, whether it's tested okay, whether it maintains security, but also what impact does it have on consumption, and can that be further optimized? I think this is just the start of the journey. I think there's a lot we can do in this area. And like I say, we need to develop the skills and the capabilities. We need to make it part of everybody's job. So we need to change the way that people work. But also, I can certainly say that AWS can help with every step of this process. There are many tools out there which will help you optimize the usage. And our experience has certainly been that AWS want to help us be as efficient as possible in the cloud usage.
Thank you, Ian. I think what HSBC has done with its FinOps function is really compelling and getting great value from the AWS platform. In terms of AWS Awareness and Education, could you talk us through how your team supports AWS capability development across the bank and the importance of this?
Well, we knew right from the beginning that training the technical teams would be really important, and getting them to go through the certifications would really help. So we've provided a lot of online training, and we've had a really good take-up of that. We've also done some things to encourage people on that journey as well. So we've run some competitions, we've run some game days, and they've worked really well. AWS have just helped us, just in the last month or so, helped us run another set of game days, and that's been really popular. But we also recognized that we needed people to get experience. So we really encouraged them to get onto a project, no matter how big or small, and really just sort of get their hands dirty and do something on the cloud. Because what we've seen time and time again is that once they've done that, their views as to what they would do with their next project change, and they build better environments on the cloud. So once we had a large set of people who were trained, we realized that we were missing some of the shared learnings from the pioneer projects. We had people out there who were being successful with their cloud projects. Some things were going well, some things they were realizing they could have done better, but we weren't sharing those learnings out across the company. So we started a series of cloud talks, and these have been incredibly popular. We're running internal webinars effectively with all sorts of topics. We have some of the pioneer projects who have been talking about their experiences. We have people from my cloud services team talking about the platform, or talking about regulatory engagement, or how the controls framework works. We have people talking about how to do FinOps effectively, and we're getting really good take-up of those. We've also introduced talks from AWS as well. So they talk about some of the areas of new services that people can use, or how they can use the platform more effectively.
Thank you, Ian. It's great to see that you're educating not only your IT population, but also your business sponsors across the bank. Ian, how is the central governance model helping you in your engagements with the regulators globally?
Well, we are a highly regulated industry. And as I said at the beginning, we have a lot of regulators across all our different markets. And the regulators are all concerned with keeping the banking services available, keeping them secure, making sure that customer data is protected at all the times. About operational resilience, they're also concerned about the increasing dependency that we all have on third parties. So they're really interested in the cloud. They do also see the benefits of cloud, and they see how cloud can actually mitigate some of those risks as well. But we have to go on a journey with them. We have to learn together, to be honest, how to regulate and monitor and report on what we're doing on the cloud. Again, one of the things that we've learned is that education is key in this area. And that's something that we can do from Global Cloud Services, because we have an overview of what everybody's doing on the cloud at HSBC. We can talk about the program that we have. We can talk about the controls we put in place. So we've spent a lot of time around the world discussing cloud with various regulators, how it works, what the benefits are, what the controls are that we've put in place. And what we've learned is that this is a part of the process that we should do before asking for approvals for particular projects, or before discussing particular policy points with them. Getting that shared education and learning is really important. And then as we've gone through the journey, we've also maintained a very constant communication with our regulators, reporting to them every step of the way, reporting to them on what workloads we have live, what workloads are in our pipeline. But it's still very much an ongoing activity, and I think there's still a good way to go in working with the regulators on the cloud topics.
Thank you, Ian. That's really insightful. Ian, can you talk us through the ways you've partnered with AWS to build out your cloud governance model?
We've worked with AWS right from the beginning, really. They helped us design and build out the original foundational platform. We wanted to build a platform which could scale, but also, recognizing that regulated industry that has good guardrails in it to make sure that people keep safe and secure. As we did that, and as we looked at all the individual services, we identified additional controls, additional settings, things that we needed to see in log files in some of the services. And so we talked to AWS about that, and they've been really reactive and helpful in adding those things into those services. And so that really enables us to run a platform and govern it at enterprise scale in a regulated industry. We've also used AWS a lot for the well-architected program. So as we've been moving applications to cloud, especially some of the bigger ones or some of the more unusual ones, we've used the well-architected program to make sure that we're doing that in the best way possible, making sure that it's the most efficient, and that we really got the right architecture for use in the cloud. Now that we've moved from initial adoption into what we call our scaling phase, so we're really accelerating the number of workloads that we're moving to the cloud, AWS have worked with us to design an acceleration program. So that has brought together actually a number of the technical and the non-technical practices that we need to get right to enable us to grow our adoption. So it brings together some of the things we talked about, right from the education and the training through to the architecture, and then into the implementation, and indeed the governance and the ongoing running and alerting on those applications. We've also used professional services from AWS. We've used them in a number of areas, particularly with reviews of what we've done at the foundation level, what we've done with our security practices, whether there's anything else that we can learn in that area. And then, of course, we've brought them in on specific projects to help us do migrations or build from new on the cloud. And we've used professional services all over the world, actually, and that's been a really good engagement for us. And finally, actually, we've enjoyed having access to other customers. So either at events like these, or at reInvent, or with the customer roundtables. So we can share, some of the stories, talk about some of the challenges, and learn from other customers as to how they're tackling them. So I think, it's fair to say that AWS has been really keen to help us on our journey of cloud adoption, and we found that help extremely useful.
Thank you, Ian. As always, we're here to help. To move forward, what would you say are the benefits of a strong centralized governance model?
So that's a really good question, Rowan, because you do have to consider all the time when you're running centralized functions or shared services functions that you're continuing to deliver benefits. Things is there are many aspects of what we do on the cloud. There are many aspects of our relationship with AWS that we can do, we only need to do once. And so we can definitely get economies by doing this centrally and doing it on behalf of all of the projects. We can also work together to help direct resources into the right pieces of the program. And we can help sort out the various priorities on what we need to do. We can, by having a centralized model, we're able to get assurance that certain aspects of the foundation and of the controls and of the guardrails are in place, and that we know that they're in place for all projects at HSBC. And again, that's really important for our own peace of mind, but also for our discussions with our own risk stewards and auditors, and then again with those discussions with the regulators. Cloud adoption in general is of great interest to our executives and our board members. And so it is really beneficial to be able to talk about what's going on across the breadth of HSBC, bring that all together into one place, report on it in a regular way, describe the benefits that we're seeing, but also, of course, highlight any of the risks that we're seeing across those projects. So again, having the centralized model helps us do that. And it's really a similar picture for the regulators. They want an aggregated story as to what's happening with cloud adoption in a particular country or territory for HSBC. And they want to hear a consistent and comprehensive description of our activities. So again, we can provide that from a central point. And then finally, I think the other benefit that we've been able to give is to be able to enable people to build better solutions by bringing teams together, helping people learn from each other, identifying where a problem may have been solved once before, bringing it to the other team, and working with the early adopters especially to share best practice.
Thank you, Ian. With a bank as large as HSBC, how do you avoid global cloud services becoming a bottleneck in a global delivery model?
So that's a really good question. And that's always something to watch out for if you're running a shared services model in the center. I think it's really important that we remember that we need to keep delivering business projects. We need to keep having a constant pipeline of applications going live. So everything we do within global cloud services should be focused around how does it help to deliver these projects. And actually, I really encourage the team to get involved directly in those projects and make sure that they don't get disconnected from that regular delivery of projects. That makes sure that what we're working on is actually really helping people. Fundamentally, we've tried to set up the organization so that we are serving the DevOps teams. We want to provide them with a base environment, and yes, we need to provide some controls and guardrails, but then we want to be able to hand over that environment to the DevOps team and give them the power to consume the services they need, build the infrastructure they require, and keep making releases. We don't want to get in their way, but we want to be able to make it easier for them to do their work. And we need to make sure that we're still keeping it safe and secure. The aim is to keep the DevOps teams to be able to concentrate on delivering functionality and to be able to delight their customers.
Thank you, Ian. What learnings can you share from your role in maturing the global cloud services function at HSBC?
I was really surprised about the number of different professionals that needed to be involved to have a successful cloud program. I think it must be one of the most diverse teams that I have run when you consider all the different disciplines that we've needed and just how important each of those different disciplines are in having a successful cloud journey. Technology and innovation are absolutely really important and central to our cloud journey, but it's not just about technology and innovation. You have to get your security and your controls right. You have to make sure that you are doing those commercial pieces and getting the FinOps piece right. And then you do need help from those other functions, legal and procurement and compliance, support and operations. All of these people will help to get the projects over the line, get them live, and then also keep them running efficiently. So I think that's probably been my number one learning from running global cloud services. I think the second one that we've realized is that education is really important. We talked a little bit about training, and that's certainly important as well. But just education about cloud, about the program, about our approach to adoption, that's been really important as well. What we realized is that everybody's heard about the cloud. People use it in their own personal day-to-day lives, but not many people really know what it is, and they really are not sure about how it works or how enterprises adopt it. And it's very easy to make assumptions that people do understand those things. And importantly, especially for those partner organizations, they're not quite sure about how it will affect the way that their job's going to work in the future. And there are some big changes, especially when you think about the consumption model, or the way that you contract for cloud, or the shared responsibility model. So what we really learned is that we need to educate those teams first. We need to communicate with them. We need to set the context for them before asking for their help or asking them to do something or to approve something. Without that context and education, the conversation gets very difficult. So we've had to take that learning on board and make sure that we try and educate and communicate first, and then start working with teams to get them to help and do things for us. I think the final learning I'd share with you is that it's about how do you get value from cloud. And migrating a workload to cloud is a good start, and it's a really good start. It gets you hands-on familiarity with how the cloud works. It gets you experience, but but to be honest, it probably won't deliver you much value. To get value, you really have to re-architect something. You might want to re-architect your technology. You could re-architect your business process. You could re-architect your operations. But you need to make some changes to really make the most of the benefits that cloud can deliver you. And then once you've got to that stage, you've got running applications on the cloud that are somewhat re-architected. To get even more value, you can then start imagining and innovating to do things that you couldn't even think were possible before, and really change the way that you work and change the way that the business approach their relationship with IT. So I think that's been a key area to learn for us, and one that we're looking out for as we progress with our cloud adoption program.
Thank you, Ian. Really insightful. I think the way HSBC's educated such a large group of people, focused on re-architecting, and then now innovating is really impressive. Ian, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today and share your insights on how HSBC is scaling its work around cloud adoption and using the AWS platform. And on behalf of the Amazon Web Services team and your HSBC AWS account team, it's been a privilege to have such a solid and fantastic partnership with you and your colleagues.
Thank you, Ryan, and it's been great working with you and the rest of AWS.
Thank you very much, Ian.